Colour My Story. Colour My Story is all about children and helping them deal and cope with change. We're about listening to the voices of children and helping them understand their thoughts, feelings and emotions. Our way is to connect children and adults by giving them a tool that helps them communicate and talk freely.
I started writing Colour My Story books for my own daughter who was experiencing difficulty with change. And I realised when we were moving house that the words that I was trying to explain just weren't quite enough. So I wrote her a book. I put some simple language through it and some colouring in images. I was quite fascinated when she, with only just reading it once or twice, already she started to ask questions. She was 3 years old, we were having a conversation about the move. She was able to ask me little questions. What colour's the truck going to be? Who's going to drive the truck? Can I pack some of the things into the boxes? And I felt like they weren't questions that I would have guessed that she would be thinking of, but they were questions that I could answer, and it was a way that we could have a conversation about the change. As we sort of got closer to the move, she kept the book pretty close. She had it up beside her bed each night, and we went through the story. And I didn't realise the massive impact that book was having on her until the day we moved into our new house. I knew it was helping during the move. I knew while we were living in temporary accommodation, while we were looking for a house, I was surprised that there weren't many tantrums. But mostly, the day that we moved in, I remember the removalist truck driving away, and she said to me, "Where's the dog? Where's Harry?" And I said, "He's at Gran and Grandad's place. It's 8 hours away." And she said, "No, in the book, the dog comes next." And that was the moment that I realised this book was more to her. It was like a guide to her. She was using it. She was reading it each night, and she was ticking off the things that were happening, page by page. And she was okay about the change. She was okay about our move because of the book. And that's when I started to think, wow, the one little story has made such an impact on my family life. I wonder if there are other families who would also appreciate a book like this. And so began the Colour My Story moving house book, which led into the Colour My Story starting school book, starting preschool book, having new baby books. And that was how I got to start writing these little books for children about change. Could you write us a book like this for children in out-of-home care? That was a question emailed to me from a beautiful foster carer in Queensland by the name of Leanne Robson. It was with Leanne's help and support from Brian Smith from Foster Care Queensland, where we were able to start working on this book for children in care, and to take the Colour My Story concept and write a book for children and their carers. We met for 3 months. We worked with the staff from Foster Care Queensland, the Pyjama Foundation, Create, and many foster carers, meeting each week, looking over the words and over the images, and making sure this was a book that children in care would really enjoy, and it would help foster carers welcome children into their home.
Each of the Colour My Story books explain change to children through telling a story. Star the child as the main character in a story about their change. Use colouring in images for children to personalise their own story. Give parents and carers the initial words for a conversation about change. Encourage adults and children to colour in together while they talk about change. Help children express themselves and talk through their thoughts and feelings. gives children time to think about their questions and ask them while they are colouring with an adult. Show children they are important and special. Colour My Storybooks have been created to be used again and again, each time adding more details and exploring different pages depending on what is going on. Since starting these books, we are thrilled with what we hear from parents and carers about how reading and colouring a child's own story has helped deepen their conversation about change. What we now know about Colour My Storybooks: children love receiving a book all about them. Children enjoy the attention of an adult reading and colouring with them. Colouring helps children relax. Colouring together helps children engage in conversation. Children have questions when things are changing around them, and these books help them to articulate those questions. By focusing our eyes on the page and letting a child talk, we can achieve a deeper level of conversation. A Place for Me. As you are watching and listening to the next part of the video, you can make your own notes on the paper provided. Ideally, this book, A Place for Me, is a gift from a carer to a child to welcome them into their home. It is a story the carers and child can create together as they talk and get to know each other and talk about how things in this house work. When you first give the child the book, start by reading through the whole story. You don't have to stop on each page and go into detail. That will all come. After reading through the story, come back to this page and explain that this character is them. Talk about the child, their hair colour, their eye colour, the things they like to do. Start colouring in the main character together and ask the child what colours they would like to use. Here are a few ideas of what you can do to make the main character look more like your child. You can change the hair, skin colour, add accessories, colour in their clothes. This page is about who lives in this house. Spend time drawing your own people and animals onto the page, or you can cut and paste from the extra characters in the back of the book. You can add details to extra characters and also write their names. This page is an opportunity to talk about play inside and outside the house. Ask the child what they enjoy doing and explain what they are welcome to do or play with. On this page, you can talk about where the child will sleep. Is there a place where they can put their things, like this book or a bag? While you colour this page together, talk about food in your home. What are the rules about the food children have access to? Show the children where the food is kept. Ask what foods they like and don't like. This is good time to talk about what happens before, during, and after meal times in your home. You can cut and paste extra characters from page 15 if you need them. This page helps with conversations about daily routines. You can show the child what their mornings and evenings will look like. This, children have told us, is their #1 favourite illustration in the book. It is an opportunity to talk about things that the child enjoys doing and things you can all do together. Use this page to talk about birthdays, Christmas, Easter, or other special celebrations. Use your discretion as to how much detail you want to go into, depending on what time of year it is, and whether the child will still be living with you during these special occasions. This page is about letting the child know if they need to talk to someone, there are people here to listen. You can help them identify other people that are also there for them. This page is a chance for the child to talk about the people in their life that are important to them. Spend time drawing or cutting and pasting from the back of the book. People or animals the child wants to talk about. Write names under the characters to help remember them. Take the next 10 minutes to pause this video and discuss with those present how you would use this book. Go through each page and brainstorm the extra things you could do. Use the paper provided to write down your ideas. Our recommendations for the use of A Place for Me. This book is for children in foster care, kinship care and residential care. It will work for children in any type of out-of-home care or shelter. The book is for children of all ages. Purposefully, we have not put an age limit on the book because it has been appreciated by children from the age of 2 to 17. My suggestion would be to make individual decisions on children over 13 and whether you think they would enjoy using the book. We have found the combination of words, images, time with the carer and colouring together achieves something quite magical that all children love. The book works best as a gift from the foster carer to welcome a new child into their home. It would also be beneficial for caseworkers to follow up and colour a few pages with the child during their visit. If there are enough copies of the book, I would recommend all children living with the carer to receive a book, even if the child has lived with the carer for a long time. This will reinforce to the children that they are all important and special in this home. With children who have lived with the carer for a while, I would revisit the daily routines in the house and spending time talking together about these rules and routines. Once the child has a book, it can be pulled out in preparation for new children coming to stay. Our biggest recommendation is to make sure during your colouring you try to keep your eyes on the page of the book as much as possible. This, as well as having times when you aren't talking, will encourage the child to talk.
In our organisation, we find A Place for Me works really well for children settling into a new home. There's an opportunity to talk about the rules and routines in a new house that are sometimes difficult to address. We also find it works really well for children who have been settled with a carer for a while, and it is a chance to revisit routines and check in on how they're going within the placement. We bought a copy of A Place for Me for each of our children in care, and caseworkers are following up with the children, colouring in a few pages with them during their home visits.
The kids love them. I have one child who has so many difficulties learning, she has coloured hers with the most incredible care and effort. She has pasted in the important people in her life and the animals and has started to contribute to her story herself. It is so amazing. She sleeps with her book. The other child is very impressed that the book is about him. He's taking his time with his book. He has an awesome brain and thinks a lot, so he wants his story to be just right. He loves his book and wants to take it to school for show and tell. I can't begin to tell you the difference this little book has made to my kids in care. Every day I try to make sure they feel special and loved, but this book, a gift from your imagination, has had an enormous visual impact. Lynn.
As a foster carer, I find this resource to be extremely successful. Sitting down with a child and being able to talk about topics that we have difficulty as carers broaching with the child. Quite often children come in to care with us in trauma and having family difficulties, and through no fault of their own they find themselves living in our house, which to many of the children is extremely foreign. It's a strange environment for them. We're able to sit down with them at a time that suits us, have them draw in the book, which most kids just love drawing, and then we're able to actually broach some of these topics about that they're safe, that there'll be plenty of food for them to have, and that they'll have a place of their own within our house, and we'll welcome them in gladly. So I couldn't recommend this book anymore. It's a fabulous resource to all foster carers and all parents who have change going on in their home.
We received the books and Taylor loved it, and she spent a lot of time with us colouring and pasting the people. She kept coming up to me at numerous occasions over the weekend to thank me again, so I know it must have made a big impact. Thanks again for such a novel way of reiterating how special Taylor is to us. Ruth.
I like colouring in with Mum because it makes me feel comfortable with telling her about the things that I'm having trouble with at school. And I know she's not messing around, doing jobs, being busy, doing something with one of my siblings. And I know that she's listening.
I'd like to finish with a story close to my heart about a lesson I learned with the Colour My Story books. When my eldest daughter started school, I'd been writing the books for about 18 months, and I was excited to trial the starting school book with my own daughter. before she started, we coloured in the pictures, we read the story, we talked about school. She was excited about going, couldn't wait to go. The first day she loved it, the second day she loved it, and the third day she didn't want to go again. And it started just that she said that she didn't want to go, and by the end of by the time we were ready to go to school, she had started stamping her feet and saying, "Oh, I don't want to go to school." As you know, I just thought that there was a few little anxieties and that she would be okay. So I kept pushing and getting her ready for school, and little bit by little bit, she was really feeling mad with me. She was upset. She was doing anything that she could possibly do to stay at home. We got to school that morning, and the goodbye was, as I said goodbye to her, she had to be pulled from me by the teacher and the teacher's aide. She really was still, right to that moment, didn't want to be at school that day. And I really thought that would just be something that would change over a few more days. It would get better, it would get easier, but it didn't. Lucy was still crying and screaming and not wanting to go to school for 6 weeks. For me, I felt a little bit embarrassed. I was a school teacher, I'd written the starting school book, and my child was having the hardest time out of all the parents with the child starting school. And it wasn't until 6 weeks, after 6 weeks of this, that on one Sunday morning we pulled out the book and started doing some more colouring. And it was when I got to the page on, at school there will be a place for me to eat and a place for me to play with my friends at lunchtime. She started to cry and she said, "Mum, you colour and I will talk." And I really made sure that my eyes were focused on the page, and I coloured as she talked. And she said to me, "I don't like lunchtimes. When I have finished eating my lunch, I can't find my friends to play with." And I asked her, was that why she didn't want to go to school? And she said yes. So all the time that I'd been loading her lunchbox full of food, she was unable to explain to me that was causing the anxiety for her at lunchtime. In a very small play area, there were 220 kids, and they all wore the same school uniform. And when she finally was the last person to finish her morning tea and the last person to finish her lunch, when she finished those things, she couldn't find her friends. And that was why she cried every morning. She stamped her feet. We would dress her and she'd pull her clothes off, and that was why. And that was her way of saying she didn't feel safe. So my advice is, don't leave at 6 weeks. Read the book. It's a great story to read before the change. It's a great story to read during the change, and it's an even better story to pick up and read a few weeks later, especially if they're having trouble.
This is a resource that will grow as we listen to the voices of children and carers. Please email us your feedback and your experience with our book, and engage with us on our Facebook page.